And now I'd like to introduce representatives of our presenting sponsors, Peter Robertson, the Vice Chair of Chevron, and Jens Egerlund, Accenture's Managing Director for the state of California.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As a long-standing California company, we're proud to support a program that recognizes the contribution of each honoree to California's rich heritage. The California Hall of Fame is a celebration of human energy, high performance, and ingenuity, which are all attributes that Chevron not only identifies with, but recognizes as the main drivers in the continued evolution of this great state, which we have called home for almost 130 years. It's our privilege to be part of this event, and I thank you very much for the honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As those of you who live in California, I don't have to tell you how proud we are to live in a state that is known throughout the world for its creativity and innovation. And certainly the folks that we are honoring here today embody that creativity and innovation, and California helps shape that creativity and innovation. At Accenture, we are dedicated to high performance, and I'd like to congratulate all of the inductees today as the high performers of today. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the board chair of the California Museum, Dina Eastwood.
Thank you so much for being here at our home away from home. We'd like to think of it as. You are at the California Museum. My name is Dina Eastwood, and I'm still in shock and awe about being the board chair this year, but I am very proud to be here. We'd like to present you tonight with a true group of legends who reflect California's rich history, our unique influence on the entire world, the state, the nation, the town that you come from. We have a group that reflects ideas, innovation, art, and culture. I think no field is left unturned, and we should all be so proud to just be in the room tonight. Before we get rolling, we'd like to introduce some very special guests this evening and thank them for being here tonight. We know that you're all very busy people, and we've got some dignitaries who took some time out of their calendar tonight. First of all, Governor Gray Davis. Our California Treasurer and fellow Fremontonian, Bill Lockyer. Lieutenant Governor John Garamendi. Thank you. The Honorable John Vasconcellos. Thank you. And our Secretary of State, Deborah Bowen. Thank you. Before we continue, we'd like to just quickly acknowledge the tremendous leadership at this museum, without which this place could not exist. A lot of people putting in a lot of hours. We'd like to thank the California Hall of Fame Committee, our chair, Pat Splinter, on that committee. Thank you, Pat. Our fellow board members at the Museum for History, Women, and the Arts, and the California Hall of Fame Selection Committee. You do such a great job picking such varied, wonderful people. Thank you. Also, we've got incredible presenting sponsors who you just met, who step up to the plate. Despite the way the economy looks, they have made us who we are this year and made this event possible. We'd like to thank Chevron Corporation once again, represented by Mr. Peter Robertson, the Vice Chairman. Thank you, Peter. And as you just met, Accenture, represented here tonight by Jens Egerlund, the Managing Director for the California Public Service Practice. Thank you so much again. Without those two groups, our year-round education is not possible, and we educate tens of thousands of school children here every year, and a lot of people don't realize that. So that's one of our most important missions. Before we move on, we're going to quickly recognize some of our past winners. We've got a few here in the room tonight. Somebody I know and love, Clint Eastwood, class of 2006. He'll kill me. Behind him, the gorgeous Rita Moreno, class of 2007. And some beautiful family members of some of our past honorees. Margaret Mondavi. Mrs. Mondavi, thank you. Peter Salk, son of Jonas Salk. Thank you. Bob Warren, son of Earl Warren. Thank you, Bob. And we have Ross Hanna, the grandson of John Muir, in the room tonight. We'd also like to thank Steve White and Johnny Giles of Comcast for all their support as our media partner. Every time you see Comcast, think of the museum. They're helping us out a lot here. So the real program is the brainchild and the passion of one special person, and you all know her, and we know her and love her too. Her passion for reinvention, or her creativity, really redefines so many things in this state, things that none of us will ever know about. And her passion for the museum is endless. It's the reason we're here. She is a great leader. She's a great wife, a great mother, and I'll say she's kind of like a mother to the state of California, and we've been so lucky to have her as one of our guiding influences. Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of the state of California, the gorgeous Maria Shriver.
Thank you, Dina. I want to thank you so much for being the chair of this museum. You have done an extraordinary job. Dina's been a friend of mine, and we're both former journalists. I don't know why you quit your job, but anyway, and I'm really glad that Clint is playing Mr. Ruiz for the evening. He's doing very well carrying her phone, and I tried to get him to carry her bag, but slowly. But anyway, you've done a great job. See, if he can do it, Arnold can do it eventually, so I'm really... just kidding. Anyway, not really, but, Anyway, I want to acknowledge First Lady Sharon Davis, who I see over there. Thank you, Sharon, so much. Was a fantastic First Lady of this state, and I know was also very passionate about this museum and so many other projects here in Sacramento. Patty Garamendi, who is an extraordinary public servant. I want to thank you so much. Also, for being here. I want to reiterate our thanks to the great sponsors who make this evening possible in a tough economy. Museums across this country are hurting, and we depend on these museums to educate our children, to educate ourselves, and to educate people about states like California. So I want to reiterate how grateful we are to the sponsors who make this evening possible, because really I think so many, as Dina was saying, so many kids come through this museum. Kids across the state of California spend the entire fourth grade curriculum studying their state. And one of the goals of the Hall of Fame is really to inspire young people to color outside the lines and to dream their passions. And as I always like to say, none of these people went into their field of work with the goal of being famous. They followed their passion, they followed their dreams, and as a result, because they did it well and they went for the long haul, they became famous. And I think when young people come through and learn about these inductees and the people of last year, many of whom are here, and the people of 2006, they will say, wow, I can do something too. Because these inductees were not born famous. They had to work. They had to dream themselves. And I often like to say that they all have had tremendous inner strength. There is nobody who can work as hard as these people have worked and make their mark on history without extraordinary inner strength, because the road is long, the road is filled with lots of ups and downs and tribulations, and people have to be willing to hang in there. I often say to our children to come and look at these people and learn about them, because they will learn about people who dared. And very often young people grow up today and they think, well, it's normal for a woman to want to be an astronaut, or it's normal to be Billie Jean King. Well, it wasn't normal. And these people really risked a lot to achieve what they achieved. And that's why this evening is so inspirational to me. And it's so inspirational to me because I grew up on the East Coast and my parents thought I was nuts to move to California. They thought it was one large hot tub. And My mother used to always say, well, that's how you all think in Hollywood. I said, Mommy, I don't live in Hollywood. She goes, oh, well, they're all on the beach in Hollywood. And I think one of the goals of this exhibit and this evening is to really show the world the diversity of people who live and work in California. And I think, as Dina was saying, the museum, the board, really makes an effort to acknowledge the diversity of people who are working in this state from so many fields. Tonight we have medicine, we have architecture, we have the arts, we have entertainment, we have politics. And really, I say to people, to come to California, you can do anything in this state. I don't care where you've come from. When you come here, you can dream, you can dare, and you can be accepted. And I was listening to Quincy Jones outside in the press line, and he was saying, they said, what does it mean you've been honored everywhere? And he said, well, this is the Kennedy Center of the West. He said, no, let me strike that. It's actually even more important because you're being honored by your home. And so many of us go away from home, and yet to be honored, to come back, to do your work, and to have your home state say to you, you've done well, is really, I think, a great honor for the people that you're going to meet tonight. So it's my honor to introduce them, but I just wanted to say that I think Dina mentioned Comcast, and they had a challenge this year, and I want to just introduce a woman named Elena Morato, who's here with her mother. Elena, where are you? Oh, there she is. She won a $10,000 scholarship tonight. And because they asked people what would you do to get inducted into the Hall of Fame? And she wrote an essay about wanting to start a nonprofit to help children whose parents had died fighting for their country in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And there were lots of really credible essays, and she won. And Comcast decided to double the scholarship to $10,000 so that she can go to school, and I hope continue to make her dream a reality. And one day, the goal really is that everybody who comes through this museum will be encouraged to dream their dreams and make them reality. And one day, because their dream has passion and because their focus has meaning, they'll end up in the California Hall of Fame. So once again, I want to thank everybody who is in the Founder Circle, who supports this evening. This museum is very near and dear to my heart. I'm so glad that it includes women in the story of California, women posthumously, and women who are still working to make it an extraordinary place. That was one of the goals I had in coming here to Sacramento. I had a few other ones, but that was an important one. To remind people that women were instrumental in making this state the state that it is today. And so it's a great honor for me to introduce the inductees into the California Hall of Fame for 2008. Let me begin with Alice Waters, the legendary Alice Waters, followed by Julia Morgan, represented by her great niece, Ellen North. Alice Waters. Ellen North is representing Julia Morgan, one of the great architects of all time. Dr. Linus Pauling is represented by his eldest son, Dr. Linus Pauling. Leland Stanford, represented by his great-great-grandnephew, Tom Stanford. The legendary Jane Fonda. The equally legendary Jack LaLanne. Dorothea Lange, who is represented by her eldest son, Daniel Dixon. My great friend, the legendary Quincy Jones. The legendary Dave Brubeck. Theodore Geisel, a.k.a. Dr. Seuss, represented by his widow, Audrey Giselle. The legendary Jack Nicholson. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the 2008 inductees into the California Hall of Fame. Bravo. You can sit down, yeah. And I also didn't mention, but here, Robert Graham is also an inductee into the 2008 Hall of Fame, which is, you can sit down, Jeff. I waited a long time to say that. Although Jack and I are in the college advisor classes together, and he's always in the back of the room with me going, what'd they say? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, back to school night. But I just wanted to mention that our great medal is designed by the incredible Robert Graham, who is represented here tonight by his son Stephen Graham. And Robert ended up in the hospital today over the weekend, so our thoughts and prayers are with him, and we're honored that he's being represented by his incredible son and his great partner, Norika, who's been very helpful and supportive to me. So I want to thank you for being here tonight for Robert. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the man who picks the inductees, who are, as I said, nominated by the board and the committee here at the Hall of Fame, who do such an incredible job. Claudia French runs the museum. The board is here. They make a big effort. They get all kinds of suggestions. One of the things I love about the Hall of Fame is people always debate who's worthy, who should be in, why aren't these people in, and the job of picking the people that get inducted into the California Hall of Fame goes to another man who is an extraordinary dreamer, who never does anything the way he's supposed to do it, always colors outside the lines, always dreams big, always thinks positive, and thinks California is the greatest place on the planet. So, ladies and gentlemen, your governor, my husband, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, thank you very much, Maria, for the wonderful introduction. And first of all, let me just say thank you to some of the people that are here today, like Governor Davis and Sharon Davis. Thank you very much. And, of course, Lieutenant Governor Garamendi and Patty, and Secretary of State Bowen, and Treasurer Lockyer. I don't think he ever showed up. I think that he's still busy trying to sell the bonds. But anyway, it would have been great if he's here. I always like hanging out with him. Yeah, he's fun. Then, of course, Clint and Tina Eastwood, thank you very much. Look at him, Clint, so pumped up. I like your style. Carrying the purse, I want to see that. Just don't do it, because then I have to do it, okay? Just want to make sure. And then Rita Moreno, I want to thank you also. And then we have families of all the inductees. We want to thank them all for being here today. Then my cabinet secretaries, other maybe legislators that are in there in the audience. I want to thank you all. And then we want to thank, of course, the sponsors, Chevron and Accenture, both of them. And I agree with what Maria says, that we would not be able to do this event without the sponsors. And, of course, both of them, Chevron and Accenture, both of them have been extremely generous, and we want to thank them both. So let's give them a big hand again for their great contribution. Now, this is such a special evening, and we have to, of course, thank Maria for that, because Maria has been working on this for many, many years, and Maria has always a great vision, and I think this evening is just a great representation of her great vision and for all the hard work she's doing. So let's give her a big hand for the great work that she's doing. I think maybe because Maria comes from a very successful family, I think that's why she likes successful people. People not only that are successful, but that are great. And people that are giving back to the community, give back to the state and to the country and to the world. And this is what these inductees all represent here. And she also is very much aware of, in order to become great, you have to take great risks, risk of failure, and you have to have a great vision, and you have the passion in your belly, and the fire in your belly, and all of those kind of things. And this is why she is so passionate about recognizing the trailblazers who dream and leap and act. And that is why she created this Hall of Fame here. That we're celebrating here. We're celebrating the essence of California. California leads the way, of course, across the nation and throughout the world in so many different areas. If it is in politics, if it is in arts, entertainment, music, sports, business, and science, and the list goes on and on and on. So anyone that gets inducted here in this Hall of Fame is not only the best in California, but automatically the best in the world. So we want to make sure of that, because we are the greatest state. And I have discovered that in California, as in life, all things are possible. I'm living the American dream since I've gotten here to America. California made all of this possible. I came here with just a few dollars in my pocket and with some sweat clothes, and it was sweaty, let me remind you. But I had a lot of dreams, a lot of big dreams, and because of California, all of my dreams became a reality. And tonight, I see so many fantastic people who also are big dreamers. So I feel so lucky to be in the presence of such unbelievable legends here today. Dave Brubeck, Jane Fonda, Robert Graham, who is not here, but I know Robert Graham. I'm a very good friend of his, and I'm a big admirer of his sculpture. And Quincy Jones, who is here, Jack LaLanne, Jack Nicholson, and Alice Waters. And, of course, we have inspirations who are no longer with us, who we honor with their induction tonight into the Hall of Fame also. If it is Theodore Geisel, Dorothea Lange, Julia Morgan, Linus Pauling, and Governor Leland Stanford. They're all innovators, they all are risk takers, and they all are filling our history books. And tonight I had a choice of who do I want to be the one that I want to introduce here, because I'm always the first one to introduce an inductee. And I looked through the list, and I picked, of course, someone that I've admired for a long time, and it was a big motivator, and it's Chuck LaLanne, because he is someone, when I came over here in 1968, that I saw on Venice Beach. I remember, even though I've seen him in a lot of magazines beforehand, but I saw him on Venice Beach doing chin-ups and dips and push-ups for 1 hour straight without ever stopping, and no one could follow that routine. So I knew that he was like the greatest. And, of course, we became very good friends, and we served then on the President's Council on Physical Fitness in Sports, and also on the Governor's Council on Fitness. But the interesting thing about Jack is that he opened the first modern health studio in the United States. He designed the earliest versions of exercise equipment that we use today. When we think about, the Nautilus machines and the Cybex machines, actually Jack LaLanne was the one that designed the first equipment. He set also the world record for doing the most push-ups, and he swam handcuffed and shackled, towing 70 boats with 70 people inside on his 70th birthday, may I remind you. And he swam the Golden Gate Channel, towing a 2,500-pound cabin cruiser. And Jack has also written many fitness books, appeared in films and fitness videos, made the Power Juicer famous, and had television's longest-running exercise show. And when I talk about the longest-running exercise show, I'm talking about here it is running for 34 years. Think about it, 34 years his exercise show ran. Even though his critics said that it would only last a few weeks, Jack did not listen to them at all. As a matter of fact, he listened to his heart, he listened to his great partner and wonderful wife, Elaine, and he listened to his instincts, he listened to his own research and evidence. He has always been way ahead of his times. Jack discovered decades ago that nutrition and exercise are the secret to long life and a healthy life. That's something that everyone knows today, may I remind you. But in those days, no one knew that, and science has proven him actually correct. So Jack found the fountain of youth, and look at him today. He's 94 years old. 94 years old. That's right. And he has done all of this. He has done all of this with a great attitude. This man loves life, let me tell you. He believes that in life anything is possible if you make it happen. And I'm a big believer in that too, and that's why I admire him so much and admire his attitude. So the state of California honors Jack LaLanne, who inspired millions and millions of people and helped create the modern fitness craze with his living example. It's staying active and eating right is truly the fountain of youth. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring him out, Jack LaLanne. Thank you very much.
What can I say? I feel like a June bride that's pregnant. Yeah, I'm really nervous. And I want to say all this wonderful group tonight. If there are more people like you, it would be a better world. You know, most great chefs create a menu. Alice Waters created a movement. It is a culinary revolution called California cuisine, and its genius, it is simplicity. And in fast food nation, Alice Waters is a slow food champion. She has made the art of using only locally grown, fresh ingredients to create simple meals bursting with complex and complicated flavors and textures. You know, she was born in Chatham, New Jersey. Waters earned a degree in French cultural studies from UC Berkeley. She went on to study in London and travel in France, where she had a culinary epiphany while eating a simple dinner in Brittany. I remember this dinner 1,000 times, she says. The trout had just come from the stream, the raspberries from the garden. It was immediacy that made those dishes so special. By 1971, she was back in Berkeley serving those immediately provocative meals to the diners in her restaurant, Chez Prenese, where the simple fixed-price menu using high-quality, locally grown, seasonal ingredients changes daily. The restaurant was an instant success, with more than 3 decades later continues to be ranked among the best in the world. Think about that. But it is more than a restaurant. It is the home of a movement. The Chez Prenese Foundation underwrites educational programs such as the Edible Schoolyard, which involves students in growing and also harvesting and preparing healthful food. And there is a school lunch initiative. Listen to this. Whoop. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Elaine. She aspires to integrate nutritionist daily lunch and gardening experience in the curriculum of all public schools. Waters also was the author of 8 books. Think about that. 8 books. And the Sustainable Food Project and Sustainable Food Project at the American Academy in Rome, and vice president of the Slow Food International, a nonprofit organization that promotes local food traditions. The state of California honors Alice Waters for her contribution to our health and well-being through our culinary excellence. And here she is. Give her a hand.
I'm so touched by the offering of this award by Jack LaLanne. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a beautiful, beautiful reading. And I'm very honored to be asked to say a few words here to read the citation for Julia Morgan. She's a heroine of mine. In many ways, the work is original, masterful, and enduring. The buildings designed by Julia Morgan represent a time when California matured from wild, untamed frontier to the sophisticated, cultivated, industrious, creative force. But Julia Morgan's greatest accomplishment isn't the work. It is that she did it at all. Born in San Francisco in 1892 and raised in Oakland, Morgan became interested in architecture as an undergraduate at UC Berkeley. At the urging of one of her professors, after graduation, she moved to Paris to apply for admission to study architecture at the all-male École des Beaux-Arts. It took 2 years and 3 tries, but she shattered the barrier, and she became the first female admitted to the school. Imagine that. Shortly after the turn of the century, she was back in California as the state's first female architect. By 1904, she had opened her own office, and after the great earthquake in San Francisco in 1906, Morgan was instrumental in the Renaissance. Among her many notable accomplishments was overseeing the rebuilding of the Fairmont Hotel, which she managed to do in 1 year. In her 47-year career, Morgan designed more than 700 buildings, many of them admired public buildings such as the YMCA's in San Francisco's Chinatown, Oakland, Riverside, and the last of which is now the Riverside Art Museum. Other notable commissions include the Asilomar Conference grounds at Pacific Grove, the Mills College Bell Tower, and St. John's Presbyterian Church right there in Berkeley. But Morgan's most famous work was done for her greatest patron, William Randolph Hearst. She designed dozens of buildings for Hearst, but none more important, lasting, and treasured than the Hearst Castle at San Simeon. She worked on it for 28 years, and she created a masterpiece that will endure for centuries as California's most magnificent edifice. I've always wanted to swim in that pool. The state of California honors Julia Morgan for her groundbreaking work and for her life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Julia would have appreciated this award very much. At the end of the last millennium, many lists were compiled. Among them was one by the journal New Scientist, which endeavored to determine the 20 greatest scientists of all time. Listed among those giants, right there with the greatest thinkers of all time, with such as Galileo and Newton, were only 2 scientists who did their work in the 20th century, Albert Einstein and Linus Pauling. From the time he enrolled as a teenager in what is now Oregon State University, through his doctoral studies at Caltech, Until his death at 93 in his Big Sur home, Linus Pauling devoted himself to comprehending the incomprehensible. He was one of the first scientists to work on the esoteric edges of developing fields like quantum chemistry, molecular biology, and orthomolecular medicine. His work was profound enough to make him the only person to have won 2 unshared Nobel Prizes. And yet it was basic enough to impact the daily lives of everyday people. The first Nobel for chemistry was awarded in 1954 for Pauling's work on the nature of chemical bonding. The second, the Nobel Peace Prize, was awarded in 1962 for his long and ultimately successful campaign to outlaw above-ground nuclear weapons testing. Scientific advances that we now take for granted were made largely because of the genius and work of Linus Pauling. His research into protein structure led to the discovery of DNA. His pioneering work in molecular genetics enabled him to identify sickle cell anemia as a molecular disease. 50 years ago, Pauling and his colleagues at Caltech conducted the first tests that showed automobiles, not factories, were the primary cause of air pollution. And then they developed the first modern electric car, the Henny Kilowatt, in 1959. 50 years later, it still seems like a good idea. And maybe its time has come. And even towards the end of his long life, well into his 80s and 90s, he continued to court controversy and search to unlock science's mysteries with his research into vitamin C and its beneficial effects on the human immune system and fighting cancer. The state of California honors Linus Pauling for his tireless brilliance and courage. Sure. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ellen. Robert Graham has earned international renown and acclaim for his monumental sculptures of the human form, both at rest and in motion. His civic monuments include the startling and confrontational Olympic Gateway nudes at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial in Washington, D.C., and the Duke Ellington Memorial in New York City, and the 24-foot-high representation of Joe Louis's fist and forearm in Detroit. Born in Mexico City, Graham studied at San Jose State University and the San Francisco Art Institute, from which he graduated in 1964. In the years since, his work has been the subject of more than 80 solo exhibitions and 3 retrospective shows in the United States, Europe, Japan, and Mexico. Public installations of his sculptures are on view at numerous locations in Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Jose, and Seattle, and the marvelous bronze gates at the entrance of the Contemporary Museum in my now hometown, Honolulu, Hawaii. He is to the art life of his time in Venice, California, what Michelangelo was to another time in Italy, a giant devoted to ceaseless creation. Graham designed the National Medal of Arts presented by the President of the United States, the Spirit of Liberty Award presented by People for the American Way, and the Spirit of California Award presented by the Governor. In 1993, Graham received the ACLU Freedom of Speech Award and the California Governor's Award for his outstanding contribution to the arts. In 2003, he received the award of the Commander of Merit of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. In 2005, the Hope of Los Angeles Award at the Latino Heritage Month, City of Los Angeles. And as was mentioned earlier, the author of tonight's medal. And now, unfortunately and regretfully, Robert Graham is not able to be here, but the state of California honors him for his exaltation of the human form, and representing him is his son, Stephen Graham. Stephen Graham.
I'm honored to accept this award on behalf of my father. There was a time when California was primarily a grand idea. It took people, dedicated, ambitious, imaginative men and women, to transform the grand idea of California idea into a magnificent reality. Foremost among those people was Leland Stanford. In 1852, Stanford, a lawyer trained in New York and admitted to the bar in Wisconsin, came west, determined to stake his claim to a piece of the California gold rush. In the next decade, he opened a general store in Placer County, became Justice of the Peace, helped organize Sacramento Public Library, co-founded Central Pacific Railroad, and was elected governor of California. He was just getting started. By 1869, Stanford, one of California's big four railroad magnates, along with Charles Crocker, Mark Hopkins, Collins P. Huntington, would realize the dream of a transcontinental railway line over the Sierra Nevada. On May 10th of that year, Stanford himself hammered in the famous Golden Spike in Promontory, Utah. Over the years, he was instrumental in the creation and development of the Pacific Union Express Company, Wells Fargo, the Southern Pacific Railroad, the Occidental and Oriental Steamship Company, which connected Japan and China to California, 2 wineries, and one of the state's first great thoroughbred horse breeding farms, the Palo Alto Stock Farm. In 1885, Stanford returned to public service when he was elected to the United States Senate. And in 1891, 2 years before his death at 69, he transformed the Palo Alto farm into perhaps his greatest contribution, the Leland Stanford Junior University. It was named in honor of his only child who had died as a teenager of typhoid. On October 1st of that year, the university admitted its first student, Herbert Hoover, who at 38 years later would become the 31st President of the United States. The state of California honors Leland Stanford, our 8th governor and transcendent tycoon, for a life of grand ambitions accomplished.
A daughter of old Hollywood and a trailblazer in her own right. Controversial, accomplished, beloved, begrudged. Jane Fonda has lived more lives than most of us can imagine. All of them in this time and place. As an actress, she projected majesty of Hollywood royalty and accessibility of a girl named Jane. Always, she has danced precariously on the cutting edge. As Kimberly Wells in The China Syndrome, she gave an Oscar-nominated performance warning of the threat of a meltdown at a nuclear plant before 3 Mile Island. With a confident wink and a knowing nod, 9 to 5 exposed gender inequities, insidious sexual harassment in the workplace before it was part of national conversation. 7 times Jane was nominated for Oscars. Twice she won for her portrayal of the steely professional call girl Bree Daniels in Clute, and for Coming Home's Sally Bender, who embodied a nation conflicted and complicated feelings towards the war in Vietnam and the men who were sent to fight it. Fonda's protests against that war have left some with similar conflicted and complicated feelings towards her. But always she has been an honest, courageous, and unrelenting advocate for social and political change, and for those less fortunate and blessed than she has been. In the 1980s, she revolutionized the country with the release of Jane Fonda's workout videos, encouraging women and girls to get physical and fit like men and boys. There were 23 videos in all, along with 13 audio recordings and 5 books. The original video remains the top-grossing home video of all time. Today, she focuses her attention with the same unrelenting force and energy as ever on environmental issues, human rights, and the empowerment of women and girls. The state of California honors Jane Fonda for her influential work and inspiring life.
I am deeply, deeply honored. In small, personal, candid photographs, Dorothea Lange told unforgettably epic stories of Americans displaced and forgotten during hard times. Taken during the Great Depression and World War II, taken more than a half century ago, her photographs retain an intimate immediacy. Even now, they demand your attention and require your reaction. They do the work of all great art and of the best journalism. They make you think and they make you feel. The photographs invade the soul and haunt the memory. In the hands of Dorothea Lange, the Graflex camera was the pen of Steinbeck or the brush of Hopper. Her art is eternal and important. Born in Hoboken, New Jersey, a place that sounds like hard times, Lange contracted polio at age 7 and was left with a lifelong limp. After studying photography as a young woman in New York City, in 1918, she moved to California and opened her own portrait studio in San Francisco. She made her living taking the pictures of the city's wealthy and fortunate, but was moved with the onset of the Great Depression to turn her lens from the studio to the street. Her studies of the unemployed and the homeless attracted the attention of the Federal Resettlement Administration, which hired her in 1915 to document rural poverty. Lange's masterpiece, Migrant Mother, a portrait of 32-year-old Florence Owens Thompson, huddled with her 3 daughters in a lean-to, was taken in 1936 in a migrant labor camp in Nipomo, California. It is an image of strength, yearning, and need so powerful that it convinced many of the need for government programs to aid the dispossessed. In the 1940s, she continued to search for meaning and purpose in her work. She recorded the lives of Japanese Americans forced unfairly into internment camps during World War II. She preserved forever minorities and women working together in wartime industries. Always, her work remained a photographic fanfare for the common men and women who make America great. The state of California honors Dorothea Lange for enduring art of texture and meaning. Accepting for Dorothea Lange is Daniel Dixon.
If my mother were here tonight, I'm sure she would have been delighted and astonished to read the words of this paper, which describe the career of a man whose middle name is Delight. The word impresario is wholly inadequate when it's used to describe Quincy Delight Jones, Jr. But it fits as well as any other you might choose. Conductor, composer, musician, producer, arranger, author, executive, entrepreneur, visionary, humanitarian, because it includes them all and leaves a little room for something else. Out of Chicago by way of Seattle, Quincy Jones found a home in Los Angeles and enabled California to give the gift of his genius to the world. By the time he was 18, Jones was playing the trumpet in Lionel Hampton's band. Before he was 20, he was arranging songs for artists like Sarah Vaughan and Count Basie and Duke Ellington and Gene Krupa and Ray Charles. And later would come Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and Peggy Lee and Dinah Washington and Michael Jackson and Miles Davis, among many others. Quincy has scored more than 33 motion pictures and produced countless albums, including Michael Jackson's Thriller, the biggest seller of all time. He was the force behind We Are the World, the man who asked dozens of artists to check their egos at the studio door and raised tens of millions of dollars to fight famine in Ethiopia. He's produced movies and television shows. He's fought against racism and injustice all his life, and fought for decency and the less fortunate since the day fortune smiled upon him and bestowed the opportunity. He's built homes in South Africa and a music festival in Chicago. He's endowed a chair at Harvard and co-founded the Institute for Black American Music. He's done it all, and he's won it all. A record 79 Grammy nominations and 27 Grammys and 7 Oscar nominations and an Emmy and the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award and France's Commandant of the Legion of Honor, which is written here in French and which I can't pronounce, and America's Kennedy Center and the National Endowment of the Arts Jazzmaster. And now there's another honor. The state of California honors Quincy Jones, its most impressive impresario.
Oh, it must be true that you pick up speed when you get over the hill. Thank you. I'm really honored. In 1958, when things were hottest during the Cold War, the United States government chose Dave Brubeck and his quartet to spread their own patented brand of American cool and make international relations just a little bit better. Brubeck toured the Soviet Union, Poland, Iran, Iraq, played his piano, spoke the international language of jazz, and established a standard for musical diplomacy. It really wasn't anything new for Brubeck. He'd been setting musical standards all his life. The Dave Brubeck Quartet was the world's most popular jazz band for more than a decade. Its Take 5 is the best-selling jazz single ever. I remember that, Dave. As a little kid. His experimentation with time signatures fundamentally changed the way jazz, the most American of musical forms, is played, and established California as the center of jazz in America. Born and raised in Concord, Brubeck graduated from the University of the Pacific in Stockton, even after one of his professors discovered that he could not read sheet music. The school was afraid granting him a degree would cause a scandal, but relented when he promised never to teach piano. Education's loss was the world's gain, though. And a few years later, after serving as a rifleman in General Patton's Third Army during World War II, Brubeck formed a quartet with his Army buddy Paul Desmond, a saxophonist, and took up residence at San Francisco's Black Hawk nightclub. Helen Noga, right? Was it Helen Noga, the owner then? God, that's amazing. The same lady, Johnny Mathis, my God. From the base of operations, they conquered the musical world, without a doubt. Brubeck made records and set records and used the popularity of his music for the greater good. He fought discrimination by canceling dates if concert promoters or nightclub owners asked him to replace the quartet's bassist, Eugene Wright, an African-American, great bassist, with a white musician. He warmed up chilly international relations with cool tours. He used the syncopated beats to fight for harmony after the killings at Kent State and Jackson State ruptured America in the early 1970s. The state of California honors Dave Brubeck, the avatar of diplomatic cool.
With his roguish brow, twinkling eye, and sly smile, Jack Nicholson always has done much more than just handle the truth. He has revealed the truth, conveyed the truth, and became the truth in every character he's played for the last 5 decades. From Jimmy Wallace 50 years ago in Roger Corman's The Crybaby Killer to Garnet Breedlove in Terms of Endearment 25 years later, he's found the essential truth and told us a little about ourselves and our predicament. I'm going to skip some of these things because they're so long, and tell you a predicament that involved Jack. I was touring with my band in the southwestern states, and rather than move every night to a different hotel,
we settled into one hotel where we could go, play, and come back, live kind of a normal life. Kind of. Now, one night when we came back to the hotel, the owner and the manager said to me, "Dave, we've got a predicament, a problem. I want you to help me." And I said, "Well, what's the matter?" "Well, there's a bunch of actors that have checked into the hotel with a film crew, directors, a whole colony of people. And as they register, no one talks about how they're going to pay. And when I try and find out, I get nowhere. They'll say, "Oh, a bank in Hollywood is going to send the money." Or Columbia Records or Columbia Films will be sending it. Right now, they're all in the dining room, and they've eaten all the food we have in this restaurant. And now they're headed for the bar. Now, Dave, I want you to do me a favor. You go into that bar, keep your ears open, and find out what you can find before I call the police. So I went to the bar. Fortunately, there was one empty bar stool. So I thought, that's where I'll sit. I'll ease up there. And just when I got near, the guy on the next bar stool stared at me like I've never had a stare before. I said to myself, I'm not talking about paying the hotel bill with this cat. So I sat down and faced away from him. Now, I felt like there was a rattlesnake ready to coil and strike me, sitting right behind me. Now, pretty quick, the hair on the back of my neck was standing up. Great fear because of the look this guy had given me. It was like a look I've never seen. I saw it years later, though. But I thought I'll go back to the owner of the hotel, say, now the last thing you want to do is call the police. What I suggest you do is you treat these guys as if they're the President of the United States. And you wouldn't ask the President how he's going to pay, or you wouldn't look for somebody else in his entourage to find out who's going to pay. Just forget about asking these guys anything if you want a hotel here tomorrow. He said, well, they got motorcycles and they tried to drive into the lobby. And some of them said they want rooms on the ground floor so they could bring their bikes in to the room during the night. Now, you expect me to do that? And I said, you better help them push their bikes into the room. There's some rough guys out there. But they're also nice. I've been listening to what they're saying. That guy next to me, he breaks up whenever there's anything funny. He has the greatest laugh. Or if there's some serious question, he's very human in his responses. You're not going to have any trouble with these guys. Just let them do what they want, and you'll have a hotel tomorrow. I went to a movie a few years later, and on the screen came this great penetrating, wonderful looking, but scary guy. And I said to myself, that's the same guy that was next to the bar stool with me. I'm so glad that I didn't say anything to him, because his looks can kill you if he wants them to. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor that the state of California honors Jack Nicholson for 5 decades of unforgettable cinema truth.
The magic spell you cast. This is La Vie en Rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close my eyes.
Okay. You know, everybody else discovers molecules. I'm drunk in a bar. That's fame for you. I worked out with Jack and Ardo. Look at me. Well, you know, it's such a nagging temptation on this special occasion to take a bit of this time to say something in rhyme. Not cloying, but clever, I hope. It's just the kind of pretense he'd warn us against with no, nope. Comparisons are odious. You should know that, you dope. Nonetheless, I'm going to do it, no matter how unadvisable, because today we honor Dr. Theodore Seuss Geisel. The man generations of children came to adore was born in Chile, Massachusetts in 1904. Childhood, grammar school, Dartmouth College, living life, getting a little bit of knowledge. At just 21, his writing begun. Must have been fun. Called Birdsies and Beasties. And he did it in a weekly. Amazing. Not weekly as opposing to strong. But I guess I digress. Let's move along. So he moved out west, where he created his magical formula. Did it no less in La Jolla, California. La Jolla, the canyon facing the ocean with white sands, white caps, waves, in perpetual motion, and lots of sun and multitudinous tongue-flicking lizards. No holly, no reindeers, no snow, no blizzards. So it wasn't no cinch creating that infamous Grinch, that kleptomaniacal, Yuletide-iacal, that meanie, selfishy, greenie, that Grinch. But that didn't stop him. The ducks went on and topped him. He wrote something. What he wrote there, Jackie? Don't be so gosh dog it wacky. He topped him by writing that slightly nefarious, wildly dexterous, stripy, stovepipey cat with a hat. And thing number 1 plus number 2, and a red box with locks filled with objects galore, and more and more and more. More meaning bubbles beneath the narrative surface. Go on, read Green Eggs, and If I Ran the Circus. Doc's books numbered 60 plus, all of them dizzy and nifty to us, full of hilarious stuff, and oops. Well, I'm suddenly feeling enough is enough. So with profound apologia, my intro must end. The time's come to loudly and proudly commend. So with hoorah, boo-rah, sis-bam-baroo-rah, we, the state of California, with no further poetics, slidely obtuse, we are delighted to honor the one and the only, the world's Dr. Seuss.
Mr. Grinch, you really are a hero. You're as ugly as a cactus, you're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
I said that I would come and say nothing, but I'm a woman. And that is just too difficult. I see you all out there. You're receptive. You're looking very pleasant. And I have this desire to tell you certain things about Ted. He was a man of many parts. People have said that before about other people. But he was a man of many parts. Most of them he did not share. But he had a way of writing something and not telling me what it was, but just coming into the room and saying, I got it. And I learned that when he did that, I wasn't supposed to ask what. It just started him out if he could let me know he had it. And he always did. And it was always just right. But he was interested in politics. He was interested in
many, many other things. But somehow he worked it out that his other interests he could put forth in the Seussian manner, and a child could see it, understand it, and go forth with it. I was up too close to see that he was to become an icon. When you're very close to someone, you miss certain things. And I think I missed certain things. But as time goes on, those things that I might have missed then, I found since. And he's not going to leave. He's going to be there. Every time a parent reads to a child, he's there. And it goes on. And I'm very proud of the time we shared. And thank you all tonight, particularly our governor and his first lady, for recognizing those things. So, I'm a woman. I said I wouldn't say a thing tonight. And I didn't, did I?
The 2008 California Hall of Fame inductees. Once again, I want to thank all of you so much for attending. To the honorees, I want to say thank you so much for making the trip to Sacramento. I think there's a few people who haven't been here before. Everybody on this stage is incredibly busy. Everybody on this stage gets asked to do so many things. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here this evening, for letting us honor you. And by so doing, I think we honor all the people of California. And I want to make sure everybody knows that Jack Nicholson's citation is online, the whole thing. And just like Audrey said, Dr. Seuss's books continue to entertain generations. Jack, so do your films. For generations and generations to come, you will not be known as the drunk man in the bar, although that's not such a bad thing. Anyway, I want to thank all of you. I invite you to the reception. The Dave Brubeck Quartet will be performing there. And as the honorees leave, we have a great choir here to sing while they go out. I want to thank the honorees' families who are here. I see Jane's son, Troy, over there, and I know there's other family members here for being here. So God bless you all. Have a happy holiday. Thank you for being here and supporting this museum and honoring these incredible Californians who have given us all so much to be grateful for. God bless you. Thank you.